Hi, this is John Dingwall. I'm here with a cup of tea and, more importantly, the Ray Summers, or at least 50% of the Ray Summers, who have just, I believe, stormed into the Scottish top 10 with their latest single. Tell us a bit about the single and getting into the top 10, because you have been signed to a record label that has some rock history behind it in Scotland.
Yeah, we're fortunate enough to be able to release our first single through King Tut's. Obviously the name speaks for itself, doesn't it? But yeah, we're fortunate enough, we pushed it ourselves, so I mean it got into number 8 or top 10 or whatever, pretty much off our own back. So yeah, we worked hard at that.
It was a single called The Shepherd. It was one of the first songs that we wrote as a band. I think it was a fairly decent introduction into the Ray Summers.
And it's the shepherd, lost his keeper. Would it come for you? And if the lives would have changed from a green to red, what would you do? And if the lives would have changed from a green to red, did it change just for you?
Tell us a little bit about your influences.
Our influences are that varied, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, 6 guys with 6 completely different tastes in music. I mean, we like anything.
I think it's pretty much anything from the 60s onwards is a hefty influence. Like, I think you can hear it in music like ska and
Try and miss out the 80s bar funk maybe, but
No slap bass in there then?
oh, don't worry.
bass player tries, but
Aye, we hold it back. I like a bit of fun.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And I know you just played the Apple Store recently, and you have a gig at the Wizard Festival this weekend. Is there plans to follow up the single with an album?
Well, we've got a second single coming out in November. We're not sure what that's going to be. We start going into the studio next month to start demoing the album. But I think, yeah, we'll get an album out as soon as possible.
yeah, I think it's probably sort of more looking towards the start of next year.
For an album.
We want to get another single out there to let people know what we're all about. I think that's pretty much the plan for the year. I'm going to get an album together this year and sort of promo it and see what happens, you know, for releasing that at the start of next year.
And if your life should start to confuse you, what you gonna do? And if your life should start to confuse you, do you want the truth?
Now the band are called the Ray Summers. I mean, that would make some people assume that perhaps it was the Ray Summers band, or that there might be someone called Ray Summers in the band, but that's not the case. Can you tell us a little bit about how the name came about?
Yeah, our bass player was, his dad was in a band in the 60s called the Ray Summers, which is kind of similar, I know, but when we're thinking of a name for the band, we were sitting in the pub and, you know, you're coming up with all these weird and wonderful ideas, and somebody had mentioned, we started talking about bands in the past, the Ray Summers came up, and somebody suggested the Ray Summers.
Yeah.
It just sort of seemed to fit our sort of style, you know, our sort of 60s vibe, sort of good time. It's got that's sort of encapsulated all that into the one name.
Yeah, the actual Ray Summers came to one of our gigs. Was it a couple of gigs ago he was there?
Yeah,
It's quite cool.
yeah, the Ray Summers from the original Ray Summers band in
Came
the
and saw
60s.
us, aye.
Just swing that round the bar, so come on. That's alright. That's okay. I don't mind.
You also played Tea in the Park, I believe, in the summer. I mean, how did that go down?
It was a bit of a last minute kind of inclusion at the bill. We were at Tea in the Park. We were all at Tea in the Park apart from our bass player Billy, and but we weren't obviously due to play. But was it Saturday? We got a call about 12 o'clock saying another band had pulled out, and would we like to play?
Yeah, our manager came down to the tent
Uh,
about 11:30, 12 o'clock
Aye.
in the morning and was like, "Take it easy on the drink, guys. You know, you're going to be playing this afternoon." First we thought it was a wind up, but it all sort of came together. In fact, the van wasn't even at Tea in the Park because our bass player wasn't there, so obviously our gear wasn't there. So it had come up from Falkirk, and the band that was on before us, the van pulled up behind the tea break stage just as the band before us were coming off stage. So Yeah, it got there, but it
It
was
was really
it was
last
pretty
minute.
tight.
Yeah.
That actually sounds like a good kind of 60s rock and roll moment.
It was.
Aye,
It just
aye,
you
pretty
know
much
get
was,
kind
aye.
of flung into the deep end, and it just means you've got no worries, nothing. You just go out there and have a great time, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what we did. So.
Yeah.